Hi guys, welcome to Rose and Jones. Thanks so much for joining me. I've got a couple of hours spare for the first time in a long time, so I wanted to just sit down and do something easy, breezy, fun and pretty, simple little video for you. Going through my collection, I have definitely got a lot of pink smelling fragrances. That seems to be my my easiest category. I've got a lot of what I'd call pink smelling fragrances, whether it's through rose or raspberry or something like that. Seems to be the favourite. So I thought I'd just do a little collection of them for you. Could be something here that you'd be interested in and that you might find new, that you haven't heard of before. Hopefully there isn't too much background noise. I've got a fish tank up here which is bubbling away. I've got the back door open over here, and I've got a large wind chime. It's quite a pretty but quite a loud noise. Mostly this video is just relaxing, as much for me as it is for you. So why don't we just get started. Actually the first two are honourable mentions because they're only samples, and we're going to start with one by BDK. I've been really interested in trying this one because I keep hearing about it. I've seen it mentioned on a lot of my favourite channels. They're people that tend to have similar tastes to me and they're raving about this fragrance, so you know I wanted to try it. So this is Pas Ce Soir by BDK. This is actually the first BDK that I've tried. I'm including it because I do think it smells pink. Now, there's nothing pink in this. There's no pink florals in this. There's actually no pink fruits in this. Something about this reminds me of eating April fruit. I don't know if you know what that is. It's just a fruity, chewy, sweet. It smells like opal fruits to me, but the pink opal fruit, that's what it reminds me of. I think there's quince and ginger. Honestly smells very generic to me. It could be compared to a lot of designer fragrances. It's very similar to so many things I've tried recently. I think it's Sea Intense, and it reminds me of that an awful lot. There's a patchouli in the base, not too heavy, just enough to give it that typical patchouli sort of scent, but I'm including it because honestly I think it smells pink, like a juicy pink opal fruit. It's okay, it's nice. I don't think it's particularly wonderful, a little bit underwhelming from what I was expecting, but it smells pink, so I'm including it. So that is BDK Pas Ce Soir. My second honourable mention is another sample, and this is one that I do actually really enjoy, and I'm sure I will be getting myself a bottle of this because I actually really love it. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. It's Tayafi by Rose Arabia. Rose Arabia is part of the Widian line, or the House of Widian. So this is a rose oud. This is actually a rose oud, but it's very light, it's airy, it's very wearable in, I'd say, any time of the year. Actually, Scott from the fragrance channel The Centurion just did a review of this fragrance, really great review, and he's absolutely right in that he describes this all year round, particularly, you know, even in the hot months. Rose oud. I'll tell you what it reminds me of. It reminds me of Weetabix with rose sugar, because there's a dry wheaty sensation with the oud and other things going on, but I definitely get the rose in the form of sugar. It's very sugary, but really lovely. It's warming, but not heavy. It's like an airy puff of Weetabix with lots of rose sugar on it. And it's very Moorish. I do feel like I need to eat this when I wear it. But I'm including it because, like I say, it smells pink. I'm not saying it smells particularly girly, but there's enough rose and sweetness that I would colour this pink. I'd probably give it a hue of brown from that wheat, you know, but I do find this smells slightly pink to me. And actually it could be a power of association because the bottle itself has the pink juice, but I would definitely include it in this. So that is a really beautiful rose oud. If you haven't checked this one out and you love rose ouds, check it out because it's I think it launched, I think it was either 2019 or last year, so it's quite new. But I think this is going to get really popular, so definitely check this one out. So that's Tayafi Rose Arabia. So let's start with the bottles. Let's just start with the most obvious association of something that smells pink. So from Parfum de Marly, ones you've probably never heard of before because they're completely under the radar. No, I'm only joking, obviously. Delina, and Delina exclusive. Very pink smelling. Very pink smelling. The classic, the ultimate queen of pink fragrances, pink bottles. Yeah, Delina and Delina exclusive. I think I do prefer Delina over Delina exclusive. It's the first one that I had. It's still the classic. It's still my fairy tale in a bottle kind of a scent. I find the exclusive to be heavier, more powdery, slightly more sickly, can I say? And if I was to douse myself an exclusive I would probably get a slight headache. Let's put down the exclusive because I can't hold two at the same time. We have rose, we have lychee, we have rhubarb, we have peony, we have, I think there's nutmeg, I think there's an incense note, isn't there? Bergamot. It's packed full of a lot of pink related goodness. I don't know what else I can say about these fragrances that hasn't already been seen and said on probably Instagram and YouTube. It's powdery, it's luxurious, it is like a pink fluffy cushion, it's romantic, it's sweet, it has tartness from the rhubarb. And I don't care how popular this is, I still love it. It still represents the fragrance that I fell in love with the quickest. It's the most beautiful thing I'd ever smell. It still is. It still is. It doesn't get tired, doesn't get old. I've got other things that I know could be, similar to this. It still doesn't mean that I love this any less. It has everything going for it in my eyes, in my taste, in my nose. It's Delina, Princess of Pink Perfection. So that is Delina, and also Delina exclusive. So next is one from the House of Luban, and this is called Griset. And I have mentioned this before. I've said that it's incredibly light, watery, very fleeting, but it's still incredibly pretty, and it does smell pink. Imagine pink, pale pink petals, rose petals, floating in lemonade. That is kind of how this smells to me, although I don't think it is lemon. I believe it is either mandarin or grapefruit, but it's so light, you could probably blend them together and it would still smell the same. It's a very light, sparkling, pink smelling rose. Clean, fizzy, refreshing, but very fleeting. Very beautiful. I got this quite cheap on eBay. I wouldn't say this was worth spending a full price on. This is actually great for high humidity or a heat wave, which we've just come out of. Well, actually, it's humid today, but we've just come out of a heat wave. Oh my god, that was horrific. But I reached for this on a few of the days and it was actually beautiful. But if the weather's even slightly cooler than that, I would say I'll be very critical of this because it really doesn't hang around. It's very fleeting. But that is Griset. Beautiful, beautiful bottle from Luban. Beautiful lid. And a beautiful pale pink, refreshing, sparkling, rosy scent. Next on the House of MDCI, we have Ciao Ciao San. This is such a pretty little bottle. It would be even prettier if it had the bust on top. Let's just imagine the bust for a second. Very regal, very, elegant. So this is pink. This is pink from actually more from peony than it is from rose. I think there is rose in here, but the florals in here is actually mostly and more predominantly cherry blossom and peony. It's sweetened with pear and lychee, and I do love that combination. It's pretty. It is a prettiness. It's a pink sweetness. I don't really get any rose, so I'm not gonna. Let's not worry about the rose. Let's just say the peony. I think it's orange blossom. The cherry blossom is actually, I'd say, the more focused floral in here. And it always reminds me of elderflower wine, this scent. I can't tell you why. There's just an edge of something like wine. A very thin edge of the scent could be classed as medicinal. I don't know why that is, but it's light but sweet. It's not sour or anything. Refreshing again. So yeah, a really pretty one. I like that it does stand apart from others that I've got, although it does smell, fruity and flowery and pink like many of mine do. It's, like I say, it's more focused on cherry blossom. I haven't got any other fragrances that focus on cherry blossom, so it is different. I think the pear brings such a lovely, sweet quality. Enjoyed this more in the spring. I haven't reached for this since it's gotten really hot, because it could be slightly too sweet, maybe a little bit too sweet, sticky if it gets very, very hot. But I think it's beautiful in the spring. So that is Ciao Ciao San by MDCI. So I've got two from Maison Lancôme here. Let's start with the lighter, prettier pink. So that is Rose Peonia. So this is Rose and Peony. This is pretty much what it is. I really love this one though. This is just, it ticks so many boxes, and this is one I could wear any day, every day, any season, any temperature, any weather. It's very sweet, and I say it was the raspberry that really gives this so much sweetness. I think the raspberry is possibly the most forward note out of everything else. I get more rose than peony in here. I find it to be more rosy than peony. but the raspberry really does stand out, and it gives it pretty much all the sweetness that it's got, and it's pretty sweet. I've compared this to Turkish Delight, but the jelly, that real thick rose jelly in Turkish Delight, you can imagine that almost being juicy. That is how this smells to me. You could compare this fragrance to a lot of things. I think people have. I love the pink pepper in this. It does go, you really can notice the pink pepper actually. It gives it a nice bit of nose tingling interest, if you like. From everything that I've tried so far, I would say this was most comparable to the new Delina La Rosé. Very similar. There's an aquatic, watery nature in here. Not green, not like a green wateryness. I would say it was more juicy and dewy. The same as Delina La Rosé, it's got that same watery element. And because of the Turkish Delight Rose that you also get in Delina, you've got that in here as well. So, yeah, I would compare it to that. But I prefer this. And obviously the most important thing is that it smells pink. It is actually a pink juice, which I guess helps the power of association, but it does smell pink for sure. And I really love it. So that is Rose and Peony by Maison Lancôme. So the next Maison Lancôme I've got here has got a much more richer, denser and decadent nature, and so is the colour. So this is Roses Ververanza. Now the colour is actually more red, or I don't know how you'd, but yeah, it's like a burnt dark pink, isn't it? And what this ultimately is actually is an incredibly sweet rose. Yeah, it's kind of Turkish Delight jelly again in a way, but this is so decadent and so deep and rich. There's pistachio, giving it this sort of slightly sour edge, like nutty edge. I think you've got different fruits in here. I think there's raspberry as well. I can't remember all the fruits. What this always reminds me of is a rich fruit, alcoholic punch. I think there's rum in here. A really rich, rosy fruit punch. Definitely boozy. This one always gets me compliments because it is so projecting. It smells incredibly expensive. It's very noticeable because it's such a thick scent, you know. I would colour this, imagine the darkest, deepest, most plush pink you can imagine. A really deep, dark pink. That is this. That's how that smells to me. It's bloody addictive as well. The more I smell this, the more I can't stop. And the more I smell it, the more I fall in love with it. So that is a very rich, syrupy, sweet Roses Ververanza. I've turned the overhead light off because I think it was creating too much of like a... Well, it was washing everything out, making everything look pink. So I've got two here from Maison Dior this time. Both very beautiful, very pretty in their pink bottles. So first is Le Cole Noire. It's so pretty, it's so elegant, and this is a very beautiful light rose fragrance. Summer months, that's spring months really, but this could be a signature scent if I had less fragrances. Very watery, there is a greenness to it. There is a Dior touch, isn't there? That it kind of comes off quite like as if you included the stem and the leaves of a rose. That's how I find the Dior DNA is. It gives a slightly sour green quality. It's only subtle, but it's definitely in this one. So it is I don't want to call it a green rose because it's not, but in comparison to all the others that we've seen, this is definitely much more green and watery. More natural, I suppose. A rose that's in a vase of water. And again, with the sweetness, it comes from raspberry. There's also, I think, lemon in here. It's got a lemony edge to it. But it's definitely that raspberry that always adds that lovely pink quality to other things. And this is a raspberry rose, in my opinion. I would colour the rose maybe slightly lighter than these peonies. There's that image in my head whenever I smell this. It's a very easy, fresh scent for me. I think it smells quite classy and sophisticated, but still quite light. You know, it's very easygoing kind of a rose fragrance, but it is one of my favourites, and it is incredibly beautiful in a very understated, elegant bottle. So that is a Cole Noire. So this next one is Holy Peony. So of course we have a peony based fragrance, and of course it's very pink as well. It's quite a fruity peony actually. Whenever I smell peony in fragrance, I find it very shampooey. Yeah, like clean hair, I suppose, like clean hair. But this is quite a thick, unlike Cole Noire, which I think is more watery. I find this to be slightly thicker in its sort of flower focus. And when I smelt my peonies, actually, when I cut them, a fresh, real peony has such a more delicate scent to it. As it should, I guess. Much more delicate, much more airy, natural. The peony in here I find thicker. Like I say, it's shampooey. It has a very slight medicinal edge, very slightly, but it's still really, really pretty. It's still a very pretty fragrance, and it does sit comfortably amongst all my other pink smelling fragrances, and I really enjoy it. So that is Holy Peony. So this is L'Eau à la Rose from Maison Francis Kurkdjian. And I wore this for the first time this year, only last week. It's kind of like what you find, you know, a rose scented cream or soap to smell like. But it's so beautifully done. There is a lovely sweetness. I think the sweetness is absolutely perfectly balanced out with this purity and brightness from the fruit. I think grapefruit in here. I can't remember, but there's a fruit in here which just gives it just that enough lift and brightness without taking away anything from what is quite a delicate rose. If I was to picture the rose in this fragrance, it would just be the petals. It would just be the purest pale pink rose petals. But they have this slight splash of this grapefruit juice and sweetness on it. Very delicate. And there's also a musk in here, just to give it a slightly very, very delicate earthy fluffiness. Very, very delicate, as if you're getting that sensation that they're blowing in the wind. It's quite airy, but it doesn't actually fly away too much. It does sort of stay like a nice little fluffy pink petal bubble around you, like a breeze of pink petals around you, and I really enjoy it. So yes, it is another pink rose fragrance, but this one has its own place because of the fact that it's not a typical fruity rose. Although there is a fruit giving it sweetness, it's still not a fruity rose. It's not green and watery. There's no powderiness to it. Yes, there's a musk, but it's not musky. It's all about this pure pink rose petal. It's ethereal almost. Very, very pure, very beautiful. So that is L'Eau à la Rose by Maison Francis Kurkdjian. So I have 3 fragrances left, and these last 3 are for the sweet tooth, for the, those that love their very sweet, sugary, candy-like fragrances. That's what these are. And we're going to start with one from Panna London. This is Pink Marc de Champagne Truffle. And this fragrance is basically designed to smell like a pink Marc de Champagne truffle. And it really does. It's very raspberry dominant, but that just adds to this pink, fluffy, scented chocolate truffle nature. It smells like a raspberry ruffle, which is the sweet that we have here. It's like a pink scented, like it's the texture of decimated coconut, but stodgier, and taste of raspberry, and it has a dark chocolate coating on the outside. That's the sweet that it reminds me of, but obviously this is meant to smell like a pink Marc de Champagne truffle. It's very rich. It's incredibly decadent. It's incredibly sweet. I mean, this is a 12 out of 10 for sweetness. It's incredibly sweet. You just wouldn't wear this very often. It's decadent in the same way that you wouldn't eat, well, maybe you would, but Marc de Champagne truffles are very decadent little truffles, and I guess you'd have them as a treat as much as you would spray this as a treat. It's exactly the same. I would colour it pink because, like I say, the sweetness of that raspberry. There is rose in here. Raspberry rose quality is so dominant in here that it's pink. Colour this a very sort of mid shade of pink. Very bright, very rich coloured, but like a mid shade. That's how this smells to me. A bit fancy, but really beautiful and very delicious. So it's Panna London's Pink Marc de Champagne Truffle. So next is a very popular one from the House of Kilian. I think everyone knows this one by now. This is Love Don't Be Shy. This could be argued that it smells more like a rich bright orange because of the extremely sweet, very dominant orange blossom in here. But you know what? Because it isn't so incredibly candy-like and sweet, this to me goes into pink territory. The brightest, most radioactive shade of coral you can think of. That is how I would colour this scent. So I'm gonna keep it in the pink family here, but it does put a foot, into the orange territory as well. So obviously, those that know this know that it's incredibly sweet, very marshmallowy. It's a marshmallow orange blossom kind of scent. I think this does come off slightly medicinal. When you first spray it, there's this medicinal kind of vibe. But that does drift away and you end up with this very delicious, sickly, orange and floral flavoured marshmallow. It's a thick, bold, confident, no getting away from sort of scent. You know, there's no mistaking what this is. Let's pretend that the marshmallows in here are those big pink fluffy ones. It's very warm and they're getting sticky, and you've eaten about 1,000 of them. Okay, imagine that feeling. And then you've flavoured them all with orange blossom. Yeah, that's kind of how this is really. Very sickly, but so addictive, my goodness. It is part of the narcotics line from Kilian, which it absolutely is. It's incredibly narcotic, incredibly addictive. It is worth the hype. I can see why people love this one. So that is Love by Kilian, not for the faint of heart, and definitely not for high temperatures. Definitely not. So we're going to end on my current guilty pleasure and obsession, Manicara. Look at that dent. Jeez, I need to really go easy when I'm spraying this now. This is not cheap. This is Manicara by Indult. I just don't know what to say. I didn't realise actually how much I'd used. Okay, so I need to go easy on this. This is so expensive. This is expensive for what it is. It really is. I've only had this for 1 month, I think it is. But the scent is so easy. I want this to be my signature. If I could afford it, this would be my signature scent. If I didn't have as many fragrances, it'd be my signature scent. It's candy-like, fun, it's sweet, it's uncomplicated, it is very pink. My goodness, does it smell pink. It reminds me of the Pick and Mix nougat, nuggety, foamy, pink marshmallowy sweets. That's exactly what it smells like to me. It's addictive. I just love this. It doesn't smell cheap at all. It really doesn't. There's definitely a very good vanilla in here. Very slightly powdery in the dry down, which reminds me of white chocolate very slightly. But it's all about these pink, and there was a lot of rose in here and a lot of lychee in here. The lychee, I would say, was crystallized like candy, candied lychee. And I will say there's a very slight plasticky edge to this. I don't know where that's coming from, but that's the part I find addictive. It's like you're eating these marshmallowy pink shrimp sweets and you're getting the smell of the plastic tray underneath them as well, which may not sound appealing to you, but you know, sometimes these strange scents of what makes things unique, which makes things addictive, for all the wrong reasons. I love this plasticky smelling candied lychee and very rose scent, but it also doesn't smell juvenile and it doesn't smell cheap somehow. Despite everything I've said, it doesn't smell cheap. Very much like Love Don't Be Shy, it's a very opaque, sweet, thick scent. Definitely narcotic. It's easy. It's just obviously too easy for me to keep grabbing. I mean, that is some seriously reckless and self-indulgent spraying right there. But you know what? I love it. I'm enjoying it. I wish it was stronger. I wish it would last longer. I wish it was cheaper. But I love it. So that is Manicara by Indult. So that is it. That is what my nose interprets pink to look like, or smell like. Look like. You know what I mean. I really hope you enjoyed this pink fragrance roundup. Let me know what pink fragrances you've got. What are your favourites? Do you know what I mean by things smelling pink? So I'm going to leave you there. Thanks so much for joining me. I'll see you on the next one. Over and out.